Welcome. I wanted to make this video because, of course, a couple people asked me for one. Let's move this out the way. But I made this video a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, when I first moved away from Atlanta. And I've been getting that question, the same question over and over again. And the question has been, how did you leave? When did you leave? Why did you leave? How did you do it? And here's a little story time. So originally I am from St. Louis, Missouri, and I moved from St. Louis, Missouri back in like 2013 or something like that. I lived in Atlanta. I created a personal training company, and it basically was catered to the high-end clientele. In the beginning, it was just everyday people, but eventually I went into like high clientele, millionaires and things like that. I lived the whole dream of Atlanta. Atlanta was never really originally my idea. It was a friend of mine at the time that gave me this idea to like, hey, you should move to Atlanta. You have this capability of like drawing people in. So I moved to Atlanta. I create the business. Everything is going well. And then I remember one day I had just bought a new car. I wanted the glitz, the glam, I got a new BMW truck, and for me, that was like the pinnacle. That was everything I have ever dreamed of. I was living in this amazing loft at the time, and I remember coming up at the end of the lease of that loft, I had started going through a depression, and I remember asking myself, was this it? Is this it? And the money was there, the business was there. It was something just missing as far as like how I felt about everything. And for me, it wasn't enough. I hadn't seen the world. I hadn't experienced life. I had just been doing this brunch and shopping and buying a new car, rinse and repeat type of cycle. And for me, I kept asking myself, this is the dream that they tell you about. This is, where you're supposed to get. You're supposed to buy a property and start a family, but it just didn't seem like enough for me. So I remember I started researching places to move, and the first place that came up was Brighton in the UK, which is maybe 30-40 minutes away from London. And it was like this beautiful place. I wanted to kind of have like a shoreline, a beach and things like that. Wasn't really the beach. If you go back on my previous videos, wasn't really, but it did the job. It gave me, and I remember just saving up money. I saved up money. And I remember right at the end of my lease, I remember just leaving. I remember just being like, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. And I didn't even think twice about it. Now that I think about it, looking back, I didn't even think twice. I was just like, I'm leaving. Now, just so happened when I left, I was there, and then after I was there for a while, the pandemic hit. Once the pandemic hit, I was kind of stuck, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me in that sense of how things should have worked in your life. You kind of be like, oh, this is divine, and this is how it's supposed to happen. The stars aligned, and I just ended up being there much longer than I had anticipated. It was just more so a trial run. But at that moment, it gave me this courage. And also, I was on the outside looking in on how another country was handling the pandemic and how the country that I was originally from made people still work, didn't give people aid, didn't do this. But this other country is like, stay home. We're going to give you money. We're going to make sure everything is fine. And to the point, they didn't even care about a lot of things, And then I remember being there, and this may be controversial, but I say it was very white, still mixed, but then because I moved to London eventually, and it was nice, but it still was missing something. It was missing culture. It was missing food. It was missing a good time. And at that time, I was in a relationship, and I was engaged to be married. And my family knew. This is not new to my family that's watching. And I was getting married, and just so happened who I was about to marry was Spanish, and they wanted to move to Barcelona, which was Spain. And again, without second thought, I was already ready to leave London. And I got there and I moved to Spain. I moved to Spain with the person that I was in love with at the time and I was going to marry. And it was nothing that made me think twice. This was a new experience. It was like, I already did one country, let's do another one. And this was nothing different, excuse me. The only difference is this country, they did not speak English, which was very difficult for me at the time because I only had taken Spanish in high school and maybe middle school, but I never had used it. You know, it wasn't a thing of something that was high priority in the States, you know, for, you know, you to learn another language and you to know another language. Fast forward a little bit, I had been living in Barcelona. I ended up calling off my engagement, ending that relationship just because of differences. And I continued to stay in Spain and I hired a teacher. I learned the language and I started really immersing myself into the culture. Again, still viewing everything from the Mike Brown to the George Floyd situation from outside of the country, seeing the insurrection and everything from outside of the country. And also getting a different mindset of exactly how I was actually brought up, you know, the country that I was brought up in, why I was told certain things about these other countries and why I'm in these other countries. And while I'm Black, and I'm not going to say that I did not have situations or did not have racist situations, there weren't of the magnitude of what I was used to. For me, I would always say, this is child's play, you know, and I would call it out. And then we would have conversation and things like that. And what I had learned is it was just the exposure that some of these people just didn't have. They didn't see people that looked like me in these other countries. In London, to remove that, they're just like the States in my opinion. But Spain, they just didn't know people that looked like me, you know, and most people that looked like me were, even though I am originally, you know, our ancestors are from Africa, they were from Morocco and Egypt and things like that, where it was a little bit that the Moroccans were the immigrants and weren't really like illegal immigrants, as people would say Mexicans are to America. But they never knew of Black Americans, you know, and a lot of times, especially when it came to Black Americans or Black English, a lot of us didn't speak the language. Luckily for me at the time, I was learning and I was learning really fast because I was inside that culture. And for me, it was just one of those things that it was just like, it was just regular. This came all so easy to me and it felt like I had been lied to my entire life. So when people ask me, why did you do it? I did it because I knew had always had the mindset of you can't knock something until you try it. You know, you could tell me all day you're a great person until I experience you, I don't know. I'm not going to judge you, but I don't know. And I had always thought in my mind, like, I want to explore the world. I want to see the world. I want to live in different places. And no matter if they like me or not, I'll figure that part out. But as I learned, these places weren't as bad. Spain wasn't as bad as I thought of, you know, and me learning the language and being able to speak to them more and then understanding, okay, this is how you view Americans, and then seeing it from myself because I'm outside of America. So my mannerisms and things have been catered, you know, for a good part of time. It was catered towards London, and then it started being catered towards the Spanish. And in me just adapting to different ways and immersing myself into that culture, it was a little different for my mindset to think about the things. So when it came to me moving to Mexico, the main part of it was for me is I did want to be closer to my family. I wanted to be closest to my nieces and my nephews and my sisters and my brothers and my dad, and my grandmothers. I have both grandmothers still alive, which is amazing. And I think for a lot of the time, I was more so, I never thought about Mexico because Mexico was so close to the States. I was like, that could be last. If I ever go back to the States, Mexico to be the last place that I visit. It's so close. Why not go to the places that I can? So as of now, I have traveled all of Europe. When it came to Mexico, me already knowing Spanish, it was like, it it's just like, oh yeah, go. Why not? You know, go to Mexico and see how it is and see how you like it. Because I've already done other countries. So, you know, at this point in my mind is like, do it. Why not do it? And when I got here, I remember getting here and I remember seeing my apartment, which I just posted on my reels on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I remember just being embraced by the people, like embraced, and everything that people have always said about Mexico or Mexicans. You get here and you see what America's taken. And I don't say it's Black America. We know it's white America, that they've taken everything. But what they've taken from them, and then to villainize people or villainize this group of people when these are the most loving people. I'm not saying that they don't have problems like everybody else, but these are the most loving and accepting people I've ever come in contact with. They are very similar to what I'm used to as far as, hey, good morning, how are you? And good afternoon, you know, have a good night, things like that. It's very, very, very complimentary to what I'm used to. And I think for me, it's still, again, going back to looking from the outside in, I can't see myself ever going back to America. You know, like I've had the most peace of mind in the last 4 to 5 years of my life that I can't see how or why. I see why they've told us the things that they have. You know, the buying power of the black dollar, the buying power of what we can accomplish when we actually put our mind to something. And to basically, in my terms, we were in an abusive relationship. There was a lot of things that I had to unlearn moving out of the United States. There was a lot of things that I had to come to grips with when I wanted to lash out, or when I was angry about something, or when I wanted to assert this hierarchy mentality that I've been taught of. You, when I say something, you do it. And I had to understand that all of that was catering to white people. The whole thing is the customer is always white has always been catered to white people. Because in other countries that doesn't work, you know? Like, not saying that it should in some cases, but all that you complain and you get what you want, that's only in America. And while some people may say, well, that's a good thing, it's actually not. The fact that you're not able to be told no. You're not able to be told you can't do this, or that's not allowed. And when you wrap your head around it, that some of it is just common decency of just being a human, and you don't get to speak to me any type of way because you want service, or you don't get to speak to me because you know I'm working for a tip, because my country is already paying me and I don't have to kiss your ass to get your money. You know, you're gonna pay for your meal, I'm still gonna get paid, and that's how it's gonna be. And that's the thing that one of the things that I had to really rewire myself on. And I think that's the reason that I've been posting the videos and, you know, showing you guys, trying to show you as much as I can, without being like invasive of a culture, invasive like camera, which is why I don't post that many videos. I post them, you know, based off when people ask or what they want to see, I post it. And that's the thing. And for me, it's always try to educate my people as much as possible, because there's other ways around what they've already told you, you know, what you've not really experienced, but experienced, you know. And I hate to bring it out like that. You are all in an abusive relationship. I was part of that abusive relationship with that country, where everything looks glitz and glam and everything is amazing because you drive your BMW or your Infinity truck, or, you know, you live in a high rise or a loft. But when in actuality, you actually have no peace. You have no peace. And there's been many times where I've sat in the desert of the Canary Islands or been on the coast of England, and no TVs, no cell phones, no nothing. And it's just peaceful. And I didn't know what peace was, because I thought peace was buying cars and buying clothes and and showing people how much I have, when in actuality, that's not life if you're just living one time. So that's part of the reason that I moved, outside of just wanting to experience something different. Now I feel like all of what I've experienced in the last 4 years has trumped everything that I was taught and everything that I saw the years prior, the last 29 years before that. And I do feel lied to. I do feel betrayed. I do feel it's been a lot of therapy as well. I do feel like there has been a lot of things that I've had to come to grips with. That I've never been a proud American, so that's not something that I can say, but it's never been something that I didn't think like something's wrong about this situation. Not just the police brutality or the slavery or the lies that's spewed. It's something's not right about that place. And I wish that, and I'm going to try my best to give you guys the most information that I can to help you, and so you can understand that there's something more, And there's a quote that a lady said about African Americans, which I don't think is true, but African Americans finding it that it's unfair that some of the jobs that they're going for in a free market being like, the jobs that you can acquire, because they weren't bilingual. And I will tell you all this, and this will be the end. There is nothing wrong with being bilingual. I have been in 3 other countries where these people speak 3 to 4 different languages, including English. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you trying to learn another language. You not knowing another language in 2023 means that you are behind the curve. Regardless on what America tells you, this is America, speak English. You are behind the curve of the world. Fuck America. You are behind the curve of the world, because everyone else in your range or age range in these other countries that are traveling to the country that you love or the country that you're in, they know another language, and this is why they're beating you out for jobs, and this is why they're beating you out for certain promotions and things like this, because the world is bilingual. And with that, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.